So Jim, it looks like you're good. Okay, we are live. All right. We're starting soon, folks. All right, we are live. So hello everybody. Well, we are ready to get going today. Today we have a special guest. It's the title of our presentation today is going to be Intentional Authorship in an AI World. This is an introductory workshop live stream. Today we're streaming to Facebook, YouTube. We're streaming to LinkedIn, to Twitter, and Twitch. So please do drop in your comments. We're going to have a good time, and well, yeah. Let's go ahead and bring up our guest up here, and we'll get started. And so let me go ahead and introduce our dear friend, Tina Story, who's going to be the main. She's our main guest today, and we're going to have. She's going to share a lot of things for us. So here's what I want to share about Tina. Tina, I'm going to go hide you for a second, and come back. So, she might be embarrassed, but that's okay. So Tina Story spent 30 years in IT, the last 15 as a product manager and director of a pretty big financial regulatory firm where precision thinking and decision making for complex systems were the daily standard. She led system delivery initiatives and agile transformations. She's coached teams through uncertainty and knew early that most expensive mistakes in any project is building before you understand why you are building it. When she turned to writing her memoir, she brought that discipline with her, defining the book's vision, mapping every chapter, sizing each for complexity, and working in sprints to draft and revise. It turns out Agile works on memoirs too. And her forthcoming memoir, When a Heart Forms, that's the title of it, traces her experience navigating cancer through a rigorous, self-directed, holistic strategy and what the longer part of that journey had to reveal. As her drafting process revealed new dimensions the book needed to explore, she developed a deliberate and discerning approach to using AI as a clarity tool, one that kept the book entirely and authentically her own. And that's what she's here to share. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up our friend, Tina Story. And Tina, how are you doing, my friend? What say you?
I'm doing well. Looking forward to talking with you, Bez.
All right. Well, I have questions. I definitely have questions. But hey, I shared your career journey. Was there anything else there that most people like? Share one thing that most people don't know about you that nobody's going to know, but only this audience.
I have so many secrets to reveal, I guess. I mean, something that I don't mention in my bio is that I also I took a 1-year certification program as a functional medicine health coach while I was going through, or just as I was finishing up going through my cancer journey. And I kind of joke about it in terms of, nothing like marketing yourself as a health coach who gets cancer. But I think when you learn, when you've learned lessons, you want to share them. And that's why I started writing my book.
Oh, okay. We're going to dive into that. And I love the title, right? And so just in case all of you need to see this again one more time, well, let's see if I can bring it up or if it'll manifest its way here to us. So you put that the title of this session today is Intentional Authorship in an AI World. Why let me ask you this before we get into the questions. Though this is a pre question. Why did you choose that title?
I think nowadays there's so many people interested in writing a book, and with the advent of AI, people believe, I'm not saying everybody does. Many people may believe that AI can write the book for you. And I think that there are obviously the market's been flooded with books that AI has written. And that I think is doing a disservice to the people who have real stories to tell with their voice. But AI at the same time, I don't think we need to just throw it out completely. I think we can still leverage it. And I've definitely learned that myself on how to leverage it so that the book is still authentically mine, but how I can leverage the tool to do what it's best at for me while still remaining true to what my story is and who I am and that I'm telling that story. So I think there's a lot of confusion that could arise when you start to write a book now. And what I realized is that I started my book writing journey 3 years ago, and my first full draft was written before I touched any AI tools because it really wasn't in our hands like it is today. So I went through that writing journey on my own with writing coaches, with writing workshops, not I shouldn't say on my own, but without AI. I finished that draft, and then AI came up, to the forefront, and I thought, "Okay, let's see what we can do with this," because once you finish your first draft, you're not done. Now you're revising. The What a writer does is it's called writing and then rewriting. You're essentially rewriting your book. There's so many revisions that need to take place, and it's not all about the editor. So when I went through that revision process, that's when I was able to have AI support for that. And it was very interesting to go through that journey because it was a journey, ups and downs. And I think that after using it for the last, I guess, 8 months or so through my revision process, I've learned so much. And I also see that it's somewhat a polarizing topic, how and if AI should be used for writing, if you're truly trying to be a good writer. And so that's what I've really reflected on, and I would love to be able to share with other people that are interested in writing a book.
Well, I'm glad you're here to share that today. I mean, you have a wonderful story to share, and I'm glad that you were able to navigate your cancer diagnosis. I hear this cancer sucks hashtag, and it truly does. I hope that one day there is a cure that is developed for cancer. And just, I know this is not part of the questions I'm asking you, but are you aware of anything of where we're at in research as it relates to cancer, and how close are we to conquering that horrendous disease?
Just a small question, hey? Um,
Yeah.
well, that's part of my story is that I took a holistic path. I looked at what I could do for myself. It didn't involve all of the research in terms of medical breakthroughs because I do feel the body has the intelligence and is always on a path towards healing, and that's what I was looking at harnessing, and that is what my book really talks about. It focuses on what I needed to do and looking at and there is research and science on that. It's just not as well, um, I don't want to say publicized, but as accessible to people because the predominant model of health and of dealing with cancer in the conventional sense, it's the big centers, the big cancer centers, the MD Andersons, and these help people. It wasn't my path. So what I'm looking at is exploring all of the research that I was using, supporting more of a holistic path, and that is more about helping the body get on the path towards healing and using its own intelligence. While
So
also yeah, sorry.
no, no, go ahead, finish that thought. Sorry.
I guess the other thing I just wanted to add to that is I'm not there to downplay necessarily or judge anyone or criticize what the conventional paradigm is doing. There's people that want to take that path, and I fully respect that. And so what I wanted to talk about in the book and to cover is how you can do both. It's not an either or. because I did have surgery. That was a conventional tool that I utilized, but I did so much more around it to help myself get through the surgery, because that carries a lot of toll on a person, and people don't realize that surgery itself is known to be associated with metastasis because of the inflammation that it creates. And there are things that you can do to protect yourself from that. But these aren't things that necessarily the surgeon's going to tell you, not because they're trying to hide anything, but it doesn't come up. For whatever reason, they may not want to scare people. Maybe they're not aware of all the research that's out there on this. So that's where I'm coming from.
Okay. No, that's a very responsible, respectable approach. And so I'm going to go ahead and start with my questions. I got a list of questions. They're like this long, and
Okay.
I've done my research, and I want to make sure I get the most out of you.
All right.
And you may have answered some of this already in the lead up to this question,
Right.
but so I get that. So just fill in the blanks where maybe. But why did you set out to write this book
I guess
or this
because
memoir?
this memoir, I did this because I navigated cancer in a non-conventional way. And I started out very confident because I had a lot of a health focus mindset. I took control of my health for a decade before with my diet, exercise, all of that. So I was pretty confident. You get the diagnosis, it knocks you off your feet, but I still started out confident, but then I still faced the fear that you have when you get that, because how could you not? But I also could see how much power could be taken away from us when we're in that fear state. And so what I want to be able to do is help people find their power for their own healing, because I know once I understood what I had power of, and I'm not talking about control necessarily, just had the belief in what the body's capable of doing. I want to help people find their power for their own healing, get out of the fear mindset, because I believe we own our healing. But the problem is we're conditioned to hand over our healing to someone else when we're in a fear state, especially when we're in a fear state. And I love seeing people empowered. I love to teach. I love to write stories. So writing a memoir was a way that I got to do it all.
Well, that is really good. I'm glad you were able to. I mean, for us, the benefit is that you can actually talk to us about that journey. But I wanna, I know there's people out there in the live stream world that are already making some comments. So I just want to acknowledge them. We got Marcello. He's all excited. And he goes, he's dialing in from Atlanta. He must be Puerto Rican. He says, "Wepa, mano, bezra, and hifo." Hey, we will take all the good vibes you send our way and acknowledge you. So,
Yeah.
Marcello is a good brother. Hey, Marcello, if you're the only one listening, I think we got 4 people on. It looks like they may be listening. That's more than the one friend I have. So, we're quadrupling that. So, Tina, let's we so that was a great why did you set out, because I think the why is the most important thing. But let's ask you, like, you're on this path, where are you in that process right now?
Well, I had mentioned earlier, I've been working on this for 3 years. I have, and so writing the draft, and now I'm in the final revision process. So I actually have a completed manuscript I've written. I've settled on 80,000 words, which is around the size, 65 to 90 is what a memoir typically runs. So I have one final chapter that I'm going to be finishing up, and I have a June 15th deadline for my editor to hand it over to her. So I am right near in that finish line. Yeah.
Wow. Can you give us an insight? What's that last chapter going to be about? Like just a tiny bit, just a little morsel.
It's a tough one. It's at the very end of the book, and it helps wrap up the second arc of my story, which is really about all the revelations, reflecting back on emotional roots of illness and how I was forced to face that in a new light from a particular event that happened 3 years after I was through all of the therapies and my diagnosis, and I was, clear, no longer fearing cancer, and something had come up. I don't want to spoil it for you. So
Ooh.
that triggered a whole series of explorations for me, and really digging into understanding the emotional roots of illness. And that's what that chapter is going to basically talk about.
Wow, folks, if you want to read that book, you have something to look forward. There's the event. We don't know what she's talking about, so she teased it up pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get back to the writing process. So what surprised you most about the writing process?
Yes. So it was the type of roadblocks and struggles I'd face. I am very self-driven. I was confident I'd have no problem finishing this book when I decided that I was going to write it. I did not expect how many times I would question my right to write this, how many times I'd want to give up, how I'd lose my way, not realizing what I was actually writing, how many iterations of self-editing would be necessary. But I also didn't realize how much I'd grow as both a writer and a person from all the struggle, like all the struggle of actually doing the writing work itself.
All right. As I gulp some water down, you know, don't want people to see what brand of water I have, the generic brand. Anyways, oh, you have a very interesting background, working in finance, regulatory. So how did your product management background shape the way that you approached writing? Because you do have you know, an interesting career path, and so I'd like to know a
Right.
little bit about how you took that and leveraged that.
Yeah. So I had written about, I don't know, probably 250 pages. I had 20 chapters. And after writing for about a year, a little longer, and it was all over the place in terms of work remaining, like whether there was more research on the mechanisms of green tea for cancer, whether I had a partially completed draft for a chapter, or if a chapter was ready for polishing. It was just a big, messy backlog with no sense of where I was or what I should be focused on. And I wasn't getting anywhere. I go in my manuscript, ready to work, and I would start spinning. I'd work on one chapter over here, then I might pop over to another place, and it was very scrambly, and that was not efficient. And it's not meant to be a linear process. It's meant to be messy work, but there's a point. There's a spectrum there. And it was just overwhelming. And the overwhelm is what really can stop you in your tracks. And you just decide, a lot of writers will just stop because it does get too overwhelming. So what my product management background did is it gave me a framework, a robust framework to know what I had so I could do inventory on it, help me write with intention and accountability because I put things into sprints. I put due dates on them. I sized the chapters. So I understood the level of complexity that I had to, face with each one. So it would help me with estimating how much time it would take me. And once I did that, I was able to actually see real progress being made because I would sit down and I would follow my plan, not a project plan in a traditional sense, but it was a big map that I created using product management and agile principles. So once I applied that framework, which is similar to what I use to build IT components with hundreds of components, wasn't fancy, but I was able to finish my first solid draft in less than 6 months. And I couldn't believe it that I actually did it. And it was thanks to the framework. And again, very simple.
So, I love that you used your experience in product management to approach your book. I think, something you and I were talking about once, and you showed a tool that you used, and I was like, oh my goodness, is everything's mapped out. as you were making or constructing your chapters and everything else, what was that the name of that tool you use that? And I'm sure people out there are like, yeah, that's a great tool. And it was, I think you were using the free version and you were mapping out everything. I thought it was amazing. What's the name of that tool?
I was just using, the tool called Miro. It's a collaboration tool, a big board. You can have variety of templates. It's a very robust tool used commonly in the IT space. For authors in general, it might be more than what somebody would need, but it was a tool that I was familiar with using from my previous job. So I just went to that and then I created a big, huge, enormous map iteratively from that.
Yeah. And it's Miro, Miro. And
Miro,
so
that's
yeah,
right. Yep.
I'm very familiar with the tool. I
It
have an
was
account
it's basically
yeah.
like I could have done this with Post-it notes on my wall if I wanted to, because I love the tactile nature as well, but I don't have enough wall space, quite frankly. So the tool was just my way of creating a big wall of sticky notes, but organized in a certain way, like again, using product management and agile practices, just those principles. That's how I organized it. But that's really all it was, just a digital version of a big board, mapping board with post-it notes on it. Just goes to show you how non-fancy it really was, but still effective.
No, no doubt. So those out there, if you're using a tool already, and why not keep using it for maybe something outside of your industry? And here, Tina took something from the IT industry and just went ahead and used it in her authorship journey. And
Mhm.
I just want to take a moment here as people are commenting. Jay Trivedi said, "Wow, that your last name has to do with the topic story." Have you ever thought about that?
Yes, it feels like my destiny to write. When I was doing agile work and we used to estimate things in story points, one of our clients wondered if we named the points after me, which was kind of funny. So it has many applications, but yes, seems to be my destiny.
And that's wonderful. And Jay also said, "I think the reluctance of writing a book is think about what to write about." And
Yeah.
maybe when we get down the AI questions, maybe you can address that. But does that resonate with you?
Oh, absolutely. But, I now have come to believe that because we've all lived full lives, we all have a story inside of us. And I love talking with people about that actually. You don't have to get cancer to be able to feel that you have a story to tell.
So Tina, have you thought about maybe having your own show where you live stream and you interview people and then you put it on a YouTube channel? I mean, that would be pretty cool. I mean, if you'd love to talk to people about their stories, why not have a show about stories?
It's not a bad idea. Yeah, it's something I've considered just trying to help people. Sometimes I think I would like to focus on in the cancer space in terms of people's stories and how they're like to help them explore their story in terms of their illness because it plays a much bigger role than people I think realize.
No doubt. I totally understand with that. And by the way, your sound is amazing. I think, that little podcast or the mic you got is working well. And I can tell a difference, by the way. So,
Excellent.
yeah. All right. So we're going to go to my next question. Let me see. The arm is getting less longer. Okay. So, um, all right. So this question is about AI. So, I mean, that's what the title has in it, right?
Mhm.
So, when did you start using AI in your writing process? And what made you cautious about how you used it? Please share.
Right. Yeah. So I like I said, I've been working on this for 3 years, and really it's been in the last year, and I wouldn't even say the full year, maybe the last 8 months, where I've started to incorporate AI and or at least leverage it as a tool for myself. So my initial draft was completed in July of 2025, so almost a year ago. And I had various editors providing feedback on different versions, different chapters, but we know that draft doesn't get published. We had to start the revision. So AI became for me an on-demand writing coach because it's, you know, it's expensive to hire a writing coach constantly. You know, it's nice to have someone at your fingertips. And that's how I felt I was able to use it. So I'd give it a chapter, I'd have it reflect the story arc back to me, key reader takeaways, and just to say, okay, yes, this is what I was trying to say. I got it. Or, oh, it's not seeing that. So it's just always serving as a validation and a checkpoint for me, like a double check of my own work. But then there are times when it will obviously, and I started out with Chat GBT, I think like most people, and there will be suggestions made for sentences. Okay, you said this, but maybe you want to say it this way. And that happens a lot. And sometimes I go, that actually does look kind of good. So I'd start using versions of sentences it would write, but I would revise it. So I felt like I was taking ownership of it. And I continue to revise my work, continue to revise the chapters, do rewrite after rewrite, because again, I've been taking writing craft lessons, workshops, reading books, all of that continually through this whole time. And my writing was improving as I was doing that. So while I continued to revise my work, I would start noticing what I knew wasn't really mine. It was partially mine, but not really mine. And I'd start ripping that out. So that just made me really aware of how tempting it is to start using something like a tool, like maybe over relying on it. And that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted this work to be authentically me. So that was really, something that I learned pretty early and then learned to establish guardrails against.
Okay. Okay. I thought you had frozen, but no, you're good. No, that's a good lesson. I just want to deviate just a thing here as we're talking about AI. In the writing community, because there a few years back there was this, I think the Writers Guild was really up in arms about AI. But in your community of memoir writers, how is AI viewed or accepted or not accepted? What's the feeling or the vibe these days?
It's all over the map, as you can expect. And, some people are vehemently opposed to it. And others, like me, are more, say, AI friendly, but very cautious about it, and how we use it and setting up those guardrails. And that's what I would like, what I would plan. That's the whole intention of that workshop. But then there's other people that might feel, I just want to write a book. I don't really care about my writing craft and improving it. And they'd be all in and just helping AI prompt you and write the book for you. Like it's almost the same as using a ghostwriter, you could say. There are many books out there, probably many more than we even realize, that are written by a ghostwriter, which means that person does not acknowledge that someone else wrote the book for them. And I would argue, and many people argue, that's no different than AI. Having AI write your book. The difference, however, is that there is a person involved, another person doing the writing. But at the same time, every ghostwriter may receive different information from the author, from the person they're working with. They might not be getting any information, just like you could be giving AI very limited information for prompting for what it wants to write. So everything, it all depends what your perspective is. Like my goal, I wanted to write the best book I could write, and I wanted to write it the best, just become the best writer I could be through the process.
Okay.
So that drove me. There wasn't a week that went by in the last couple of years that I was not taking some workshop or reading a book on writing craft, studying another memoir, like a really a highly rated memoir to study it, or a highly rated self-help book. I have read so many books on craft and studied the books that I was not trying to emulate, but would have been considered potentially comps for me, like other books that I'd be in the same category alongside.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. No, thank you for sharing that. I think it's important to put it in context, and you're right, it's gonna be
Yeah,
all over the place.
yeah.
Different people are gonna have different takes on it. I have one more question to ask you, and then we have another one from the audience. But before we get into that, could you share a little bit about what we have? We're talking about, writing your memoir and all that, and I know you and I are working on putting a workshop together. Could you tell us a little bit about when that is and what we're targeting? And I know a lot of things are very fluid now, but give us an insight of what do we have coming in the near future, and then we'll get to the question. But as she answers that question, I'm going to put a little ticker here in the bottom. So that's not the ticker I want, but that you'll be able to at least send us an email if you're interested, and we'll get you the information. But Tina, could you tell us a little bit about what's in the future, as you're trying to educate other potential writers or authors that are thinking about doing their own memoir? What do you have in store?
Okay. So, I'll say I'm not a memoir expert or an AI expert. I'm someone maybe a few steps ahead of somebody else doing those two things together. I'm someone who's worked through a very complex memoir for the last 3 years because it includes research, as well as self-help aspects. A lot of science is in there and a lot of emotional work is in there. But I've spent many months writing and not knowing what I was really writing about for a while, for some time, because that is normal, actually. That's what I've discovered after working with many different writing coaches and just taking the workshops. This is a normal part of the process. So I wanted to set up a session for people who are interested in learning the key lessons from my writing journey as a new author, and from someone who has spent many hours reflecting on my writing journey. And I also have a vantage point that will actually never exist again. And that is that I wrote my first solid draft of a book before AI was available to me. And then I experienced the struggle of learning how to write and what I was writing. And then I finished it after AI arrived. So it gives me the split experience. It's a split experience. It gives me perspective that someone starting today can't have. And so my session is really for people contemplating writing a nonfiction book, could be memoir or just self-help. You want insights from one writer's perspective on what struggles are most important to experience fully, because there is a struggle that needs to happen while you're writing. That's part of the writer's journey. And where AI can help you avoid the ones that aren't necessary to struggle through. And I believe it's very difficult to evaluate this as a new writer when you haven't lived through it. Because it's that, that what you always hear, you don't know what you don't know. But there are definitely lessons that you can learn from others through this. So it's also not a hard set of rules that I have, but it's become kind of a philosophical question. We're all navigating this together. Where does AI fit in authorship? And there's value in thinking through these questions out loud with someone who's been in the middle of it. And that's where I am right now.
Okay.
So that's kind of what the session's intended to do, is just to help people navigate how to set the guardrails, what those look like. Because, for instance, I have principles or use cases of how I've used it, very specific cases of where and how I've used it. I have a lot of points on the key criticisms that professional writers may have with AI and how to address those criticisms, because some are very real and valid, obviously. But I also think that what happens, and this is perhaps a very bad dark image but it just feels very fitting. It's like a hammer can be a tool for murder, used for murder, but most people using a hammer do not intend to commit murder. But some people who don't use a hammer may look at a hammer and all they see is a killing device. And I
Mm,
think that's a problem with some people who are professional writers. And yet I have the highest regard for, this is not a knock against professional writer, but I think there are some outspoken professionals that will say AI will kill your writing. And I
mm.
feel that it's just not that simple, because I've had some unbelievable experiences where I have had to think much more deeply than I've ever thought before because of my use of AI, because of the questions I was asked when I was looking for feedback that no writing coach was ever able to get me to think that deeply before. So that's just a small example.
Okay, great. I know we have somebody in the green room, so Jim, who's in the green room, start to get ready because I'm gonna bring you up very shortly here. So um the the red phone is ringing, so just make sure you're ready when we call you up. And but I do want to before we go into the question before the last question, we have one from the audience, and so this is Jay again. He goes, if you were to write your own story in a book, how do you feel as you write your own story?
How do you feel as you write your own story? You feel pretty much everything. You know, the self-doubt question is continually coming up with, why would anybody care about this, what I'm writing about? And this is where I had to learn and honor the fact that we all matter. We all have a story to tell, and our story is always going to be around a transformation that we've had. Assuming, we're not the same person we were 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago, but I'm writing about my transformation through this cancer experience and post from other things that had happened since that time, and it gave me a new lens to look at it. So as I write, I feel invigorated because I'm learning so much about myself. And I guess something else is important to realize if you haven't really done much writing before is that we don't write with clarity. We write to gain clarity. And I'm not the first person to say that.
Right.
And that process is a struggle. So, and that again comes back to writing with integrity, or writing intentional authorship with an AI, as your tool. It's that when you're writing with integrity, you're really protecting that struggle that you need to have, to think for yourself. And it's knowing what you believe and why you believe it, and knowing yourself. And so while I'm writing, what I feel is I'm getting to know myself more. And it's not some solid, some static target. It's always changing, we're always growing and changing, but that writing process just keeps helping me reveal more and more about myself. So I hope that answers the question. It might have answered it more than you expected.
I think you did a great job of answering that question. And so again, if you are interested, reach out, send an email to Bezar at leveragedcareercollective.com. We'll make sure you get on the wait list. We were fast and furious right before we came on live here, and so I do want to ask the last question that I have, and you've answered some of this already, but before we bring up our friend Jim, who's in the green room. So membership has its privilege, folks. If you know, you know. reach out to me if you want to know more. Jim is in the green room, and we'll get him up here after we ask this last question. But what does writing with integrity mean to you in an AI world?
Yeah, I think it comes back to embracing and honoring the struggle that you're going to have as a writer and realizing that you have to, the struggle is part of the process. And if you are making things too easy for yourself because of your use of AI, that you're just missing the point. You're missing the experience that you need to have as a writer. Again, this isn't about being an author, someone who's published a book. This is about actually being the writer. And for me, that also meant never letting AI generate the emotional content. It's only ever used as a mirror for me to reflect back what I've already written, making sure the thinking's always mine. It helps me find clarity faster, like a mirror.
Mhm.
So I would say that's what writing integrity means. It's protecting the struggle and realizing the struggle needs to happen for you to grow and for the story to really unfold, to tell the story that needs to be told.
Well, that's beautiful there, and I love your definition for you. What is writing with integrity in an AI world? Um, let me. Um, oops, I was talking in the darkness. Hope you heard me. But we're gonna bring up Jim to the stage, and let's see what Jim. Because membership has its privileges. What say you? What do we got here? And yeah, let's see which one works the best. Yeah. What any questions you have? You've been here listening to Tina's story, tell her story about her, what does intentional authorship look like in an AI world, and yeah, I'd let you ask a question. And if you're going to ask two questions, then I charge extra for that. But ask your free question. We'll let you ask that.
Okay, my free question. Can you hear me, Baz?
We can hear you great.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so my free question is, I'm sure that you've written pre ChatGPT or AI and post. What would you say surprised you the most about using AI in your writing process?
I guess it goes back to what I said earlier a little bit about having me explore things about myself that I would never have thought to explore. It challenged me when I was asking for feedback on what were the key takeaways from a certain chapter, or hey, I'm struggling to really explain this concept that I'm dealing with. And I'm intentionally being non-specific because I don't want to give away storyline here, go too deep into that. But I would ask it questions or explain a struggle I was having, and I would get questions back that kind of blew my mind. And I had to think very, very hard and long, and it took me, sometimes it might take me a full day just to grapple with something that it had prompted me to think about. I wasn't expecting that. And I think another point, I talk about self-doubt a lot, and when you wanna stop, there's many times you wanna give up, and again, this is all part of the writer's journey. I don't know if there's anyone, I haven't heard anyone ever, any famous authors, doesn't matter, who do not say that they wanna give up and they wonder, "Who am I to write this?" So, of course, I had that so many times, and I had written so much at that point, I then because I had finished that draft, and I had asked AI to summarize my book. Just, "What's this book about? What's its point?" And the summary I got back reflected back at me exactly what I was intending with my mission, and it actually brought me to tears. And I realized I have to finish this. It was so motivating for me that it captured exactly what I was intending. And I know that AI, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude, which is what I use now, by the way, is very accommodating and, does all the affirmations, but that's not what this was. It was reflecting the mission of what I was intending and seeing that I was achieving it, because I knew it was picking up what it actually saw in my work.
Wow, that's pretty deep. Jim, if I'm just joking, if you wanted to ask an extra question, I will allow it, but if you don't have one, you don't make one up. While you're thinking of that, I just want to share that this is today we were talking about where's that banner? I know I had a banner here. Here it is. So today's session was about, and I know we're hiding behind this, but the intentional authorship in an AI world. It's an introduction of a workshop that's going to be produced in the near future that we had talked about. But we're going to go back to Jim. Jim, one final question. Do you have any? And like I said, you don't have to ask one. Just wanted to give you that opportunity if you did.
No, I am good. I'm great.
Okay, he is good to go. All right. One final thing, if you could give us a final blurb about the workshop coming up, and I think we are targeting June the what? What was it? June 10th?
The 10th, I believe.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we're looking around June 10th. Yeah.
June 10th. Could you give us an overview of what that workshop's going to be, and before we say la vie to the audience?
All right. Well, I guess the session's for anyone who's got a nonfiction book they want to write and wants to understand both the author's journey and how AI can serve that journey without taking it over. So we'll look at real examples from my own memoir process, what helped, what didn't, the guardrails I developed to make sure the writing stayed entirely mine. And there'll be an exercise to help people just kind of really test their idea. Because at the end of the day, what you need coming into any writing journey is to know what your message is. Like, why are you doing this? Know your why. And that is so much more difficult. Well, at least I found it's much more difficult than people realize. And I have some little prompts or ways that I could help people think about that.
Well, thank you. There you have it, folks. Something to look for on June 10th, and you'll see more about that. It's been a wonderful session here. I think we've learned a lot about you. We've learned a lot about what the workshop is about, and it's great to hear that people people who have their own journey can write a memoir, and someone here like yourself, Tina, who could guide us through that. And I'll tell you this, just even you being, have gone through this process is going to help some of us who've been wanting to do this, but just haven't even put pen to paper. So
Yeah.
You're many chapters ahead of us, my friend.
Yeah.
Literally. You're on the final chapter.
I'm on the final chapter. Yeah.
Oh, wasn't there a song by It's the Final Countdown? Who did that one? That's but you're on that final countdown.
Yeah, that's dating all of us, Bez. I'm not gonna offer an answer to that one.
Come on, it's the final countdown. Oh man, it wasn't Whitesnake, was it? No, it was somebody. But anyways,
No.
You are ahead of us, and we appreciate that. With that being said, I want to thank all the participants who made comments. We appreciate you, Marcello, Jay. Thank you for contributing to the thoughts here. Tina, thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today. And what we're going to do is, and thank you for the person, Pamela, who rescheduled my meeting because I was so behind on my schedule today. We're going to catch up on Friday. thank you for your grace and working with me. But yeah, thank you, Jim, for coming up and asking your question. We appreciate you too. Again, if you want to register, just send an email to bezr@leveragecareercollective.com. We, as you can tell, we didn't have a form ready to go, but we'll get you going there, and we'll do maybe another sneaky live stream before that too, with a proper form and an event to share with all of you. But anyways, thank you all. It is Tuesday, the day before Wednesday. That's considered hump day, and I'm looking forward to whatever this evening and tomorrow may bring. And thank you for all that showed up today. And we will end this stream with a countdown, 15-second countdown with us off the screen. But Jim and Tina hang out after we end the stream, and we'll just have a quick postmortem or wrap up, whatever we want to call it. And
Thank you, Bez.
thank you. And here we go. Let's see if this works. Does this work? Let me see. Let's go.